Hello. So this is a video on how to set up GarageBand to do just a basic voice recording using your built-in microphone on your MacBook. So what you're going to need to do is open GarageBand, and I'm going to switch screens here. So when you have GarageBand open, um, if you don't get this welcome screen right away, close whatever project you've had open, and this will pop up automatically. What I like to do, because I do a lot of audio recordings, is I'll set this up once and then I'll save it under a version basically as a template. So the next time I want to record an audio recording, I don't have to see this again. I'll just open that blank one up and then I'll save as under a new name. That is my starting point. So we're going to pick voice, and all of this stuff here is absolutely irrelevant if you're doing just regular voice recording. If you're actually going to be recording some music, then this will be important. Your tempo is important, your key signature is important, your time signature is important. Your audio input here is important as well. This can be changed later. Right now it's defaulted to my mixer, which is actually not plugged in right now. So if I'm assuming if I say OK or choose, I don't know why they don't have an OK button, to this, it might give me an error. So in audio input, what you would like is built-in microphone. And audio output, I recommend that you select your headphones or system setting or whatever's available. In fact, system setting in both of these is not a big deal. It's actually pretty good. It's just if you choose system setting for input and you choose system setting for output, you have to make sure that in your settings, which I'll pop up here, in your settings for sound, you have chosen your input and your output accordingly. So output, you would pick whatever you're going to pick. Over here would be headphones. Input, you would pick what you would pick as well. One of the lovely things about going to your system settings and going into sound and clicking on input is that you can lower that input volume from maximum to something like 75%, which is really nice so that you don't get anything that's too loud. When you're doing audio recording, you can pretty comfortably raise volumes, but if the input is already going in too loud, it's difficult to fix that. So that's just something I've done since the very beginning. So system preferences are done. Output is set to headphones, input set to internal microphone. So if I leave the GarageBand file setting for input to system setting and the audio output to system setting, it should be fine. Once I click choose, whatever it gives me is a starting point. I'm going to show you what I would recommend as a really good setup for a single microphone, single person recording. My MacBook is very old, so this is taking longer than it probably will on a more modern machine, and the resulting screen showed up on a different monitor, so let me move it into place. This is what it gives you, which I think is a really dumb thing that they're doing. And really what they're doing is they're basically letting you play with all of the different ones. So here's what I would recommend. Take these tracks, these are all separate tracks, and go ahead and delete them all except one. It doesn't matter which one you don't delete. What I would do is just delete them. So if you want to delete a track, you can click on it. If you hit the delete key, nothing it should just go away. In an older version, nothing happened. So I'm just hitting delete until there's just one left. And once there's just one left, on the left-hand side here for voice, what I'd really like to choose is something called no effects, because I don't want any effects to be put on my voice for me. So if you have the legacy option here, which, by the way, if you don't see it, you can scroll left to right in this left-hand part of the drawer here. If you don't see the drawer, at the top left-hand corner, you can turn off and turn on that drawer by clicking on this thing that apparently looks like a drawer. I don't know. Click on Legacy, and if you click on GarageBand, you should be able to see vocals and no effects. That is the one I recommend. So how did I get there? I went to Legacy in the first column, GarageBand in the second column, Vocals in the third column, and I chose no effects. This means there will be no audio processing going on while recording. If you want to play around with effects and you have time for that, great. We don't need that right now. And one of the wonderful things about GarageBand, and by the way, at this point you can just hide the drawer. We've made our selection for the effects. One of the wonderful things about GarageBand is that you can see your levels right in the track heading, right here. Don't worry about any of this stuff here. What we need to worry about is, will it record when we hit record? Up at the top, by default, the display that it gives us is time signature based. I recommend right-clicking here, and is it a good old right-click? You have to click and hold. Click and hold on the quarter note metronome, and then choose time. And that way it'll read everything out as time rather than number of beats. And once this is done, I'd say let's do a file save as, and I'm going to choose a location to save this in. If you're quite messy, go ahead and put it on your desktop with everything else. If you're quite neurotic about it, you can go ahead and stick it in your GarageBand folder, which is a subfolder of the music folder. And instead of just project, I'm going to call this audio recording template. Click save, and you now have a file that the next time you want to do one of these recordings, you can just go ahead and open that from your File, Open Recent submenu. It'll be up there. And then what we can do, very simply, is right away do a save as, give it an actual name for the actual project we're going to do. I'm going to call this GarageBand video recording, and that is a text message. Okay. And at this point, you can see at the top, GarageBand video recording. It's ready to record. If you want to record, you can click on that button, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is a demonstration of what the audio is like when you are recording. If your hard drive is slow, like mine, it might give you an error message, especially since I'm recording two different things at the same time. And we're going to blah, 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 and we're going to be done. To be done, we click on stop. And then as soon as you're done, you should immediately save, because if you don't, you will lose that audio. You can't save while you're recording. When I record podcasts that are quite long, I'm always a little nervous that something bad might happen. So as soon as we're done recording and I've hit stop, I immediately save, which is really good. And once you have your recording done, you can very easily go to the Share menu and choose Export Song to Disk. Once you've chosen Export Song to Disk, assuming everything is fine, I'm not going to have time to show you how to edit audio with GarageBand right now. It'll give you a default name, which is the name that you've given it already, but it'll add the date and the time. I recommend you just name it whatever you want. And you have your choice of formats. You have AAC, MP3, and AIFF. AAC is the equivalent to MP4, so I'm going to choose a quality setting. The higher the quality, the larger the file. For spoken word stuff, low quality is fine. That's what I usually do. If you want MP3, pick it there. If you want AAC or MP4, pick it there. I'm going to go ahead and choose the desktop as my location for this. And I'm going to export it. Now that's a quick export. If it's longer, or if you have multiple tracks, it'll take more time. Interestingly enough, once it's shared, exported, as you can see by that little red dot on the red button, it needs to be saved again, which is fine. So what do we actually get? What we get is, let me put a different screen here. What we get is a file that is recorded and saved with the M4A extension. That M4A extension is something that you can simply rename Click once, click the second time. And if it doesn't work right away, just hit enter. You'll go into renaming it. And instead of renaming the name, you can give it one of these, hit enter. It'll ask you if you want to absolutely use MP4. I go ahead and say sure, use MP4, and then we're good. There we are. So yeah, that is basically how that works. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them. So, open GarageBand, go ahead and select voice, delete all the tracks but one, find that legacy setting for no effects, save it as a template, save it under new name so you don't ruin your template, and Bob's your uncle. Don't forget that when you're sharing, you want to choose the option that is export song to disk, choose the format AAC, and then rename the extension afterwards. All right, I hope that was good.